We are stepping into the goddess. We're talking about embodiment. Let's just take a moment to come into our body. Take a breath. I'm a movement specialist. Movement is part of my jam. Maybe roll your shoulders, roll your neck. And what this movement is doing is creating space for this goddess to come in. She's here. She is ready. So it's really about us opening. It is. That's why this masterclass is called Personal Transformation. And it's gone through, the title has gone through a little bit of an evolution. Because at one point in time, I was calling it Embody Your Divine Goddess, which I love. We are embodying our divine goddess for sure. And then I also recently, because I'm trying to attract clients, you know, who's sitting at home thinking like, I want to be a goddess, you know, like we want that, but are we, it's so abstract. So I started changing the name to Embody Your Divine Purpose, because they're one and the same. They are so connected. But as I was explaining to Nicole before, when we talk about purpose, we get so tied up in the outside things that we're doing that we're going to feel fulfilled internally, spiritually connected to our higher self, spiritually connected to all that is when we do all these outside things. And that's not really how it works. Whereas when we think of embodying the goddess, maybe we think about this gentler, more feminine way of allowing an inner transformation that's easy. It wasn't necessarily easy for me. And that's the truth of what I'm trying to bring through here, is that I've learned a lot and it can be easy. It's supposed to be easy. It's at least supposed to have ease. Okay, maybe not be easy, but it's supposed to have ease, the unfolding of ourselves, the birthing of the goddess. And that's what the idea of the goddess does for me. It represents this flowering. You can't rush the blossoming of a flower, right? You plant the seed, it sprouts, it grows, it has a bud, and then one day, and so we fertilize it, we water it, and that's what you guys are doing here by being here right now, is you are watering and fertilizing your seed. And I want to congratulate you for doing that, because more of us need to be doing it. We have what's going on in our inner worlds, right? With our families, with our friends, with our careers, with our love life, with our health. And then we have a deeper sense of purpose. I know you do. If you're in this room, you have this deeper sense of purpose to serve in some way. And so you're also looking outside at the outside world and seeing a whole nother level of turmoil. And then I'm saying that it's supposed to be easy. So where's the disconnect there? So the idea is, as you become more embodied, you're living in a place of love and acceptance for what is. And so these things that are very, very far from you, you allow yourself not to attach, or them to not attach to you, through things like media. I don't have a TV. That doesn't mean I don't stream. That doesn't mean I don't check Facebook, but I certainly don't watch the news. I certainly am very careful about what I bring into my field, because we're trying to embody the goddess, but the goddess isn't the martyr. And so that's what we're here to remember. A lot of us, we feel called to serve, and so we take on all the suffering. So we're here for this inner journey, to bring in this joy, to bring in this peace, to bring in this light that I guarantee exists. And I hope you feel it in the next hour. And then when that shines out in the world, little by little, first the family relationships change, and the health, and all the things, and new ideas in the business, new ideas in your life. If you are a person that is not happy with your current career, there's opportunities to plant seeds for new ones. And that's where I'm moving in my offering when I changed to divine purpose, because I used to be an aerospace engineer. And now I'm sitting here as a spiritual guide. And so I know a little bit about that, but it is a journey. And so I would like to take you on this journey with me for the next hour, but I always like to start in ceremony. So we're just going to open the space to call in some Mother Earth energies, to call in your guides, to call in your ancestors, because this is deep shit. This is no joke. Like, we are bringing in higher dimensional frequencies to help heal the planet. And a lot of us have stuff coming up in our personal lives because we create it. It's like the darkness is within us. Like something out there is like trying to keep us down, to try to keep us from serving. And we do need to remember that that is real. There is this dodging happening. And then as you wake up more, you realize that it really is coming on some level from within. And you can love it out and almost create a barrier to it, where it, and then eventually it just recedes. You know what? When you don't resist, it doesn't need to persist. Ooh, I just made that up. Because it's all just trickery. The darkness is just trickery. Like, it's not real. Like, it really isn't real. It's just like going to be as real as it can to make you think it's real, to freak you out so that it can maintain its power. But it has no power. That's the funny thing. So we're going to empower ourselves. So I have a lot of indigenous training. I myself am Norwegian, Polish, so I'm very Caucasian, very Eastern, but I've spent time in Peru and I've studied with some shamans in various places, primarily in Portland, Sweet Sundance Medicine Path, which is the Hopi lineage. I've been very drawn to Hopi down into the Turtle Islands. And so that's where this comes from. Before the separation of the North and South. It's crazy when you think about how old Earth is. Sometimes people can smell it through the screen. Great spirits of the North, entrance to the mental realm and the element of air, please be present here today, allowing my words to guide the minds of anyone hearing, anyone present, any energies, both the higher self and the lower self and the present self and all beings in between. In the North, we call in the animal kingdom, the four-leggeds, the creepy crawlers, the swimmers, and the winged ones. We ask you to be present here today, to bring in your lightness, to bring in your companionship, your loyalty. Animals have been a companion to humans for eons, and we're so grateful for all the love that you bring us. Thank you, North. Great spirits of the East, entrance to the spiritual realm and the element of fire. Here we are today, rising like Phoenix from the ashes, and we are 2 days after the solstice, 3 days after the 4 days after the solstice. And if you follow some NASA Schumann resonance, there has been some big activity coming out of the sun, big light codes coming in. And so if you're feeling either more inspired or more off kilter, both are appropriate responses to this increase in spiritual energy that is coming to the earth. And here to help guide us on the East is the human kingdom. This is where we call in all the ancestors of all of the races of all of Earth. We are galactic beings. And so when we're talking about a race, we're talking about human race. And so I no longer delineate with the 4 colors in the traditional medicine wheel. Instead, we invite in all of the people of all the colors holding hands. And that's the ancestors. That's what they want. We are the dream. We are coming together. It's happening. Earth is the place to be. Thank you, East. Great spirits of the South, entrance to the water element and the emotional realm. Here we're learning to go with the flow, to be in the flow, to let emotions flow, to let tears flow, we've been really held back as a species in terms of our abilities to emote. And then, hello, women, when we're expressing what is legitimate emotion, we're kind of shut down. The masculine world doesn't know how to handle emotion. And so we are bringing back that ability. There's a very good chance you'll see me cry in this workshop. We're bringing back this ability to hold space for emotion and then move through it really quickly. Like usually if I have a welling of emotion, there'll be a tear or two, a little choke up, and I just keep talking because enough shoving all of this down. That is not healthy. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And what other people need to learn is how to hold space for people having emotion without having to overtend and having to freak out about it. Like we just need to normalize emotions. So the South is here to help us with that. And here we call in the plant kingdom. The trees, the shrubs, the grasses, the flowers, and of course our medicine plants. Medicine plants have been a part of my journey. And they do help access some of these deeper emotions that get a little bit locked up sometimes. And so we're so grateful for the South and all of the wisdom, beauty, shelter, oxygen, food. Love those plants. Thank you, South. Great spirits of the East, entrance to the physical realm and the element of earth. This is the challenge. This is what we're here for. We identify our spirit self, we identify our earth self, and it's hard to rectify them in this density. And so what we're going to learn today is some techniques to expand the body on a cellular level to create a less dense world for yourself is the best way to explain it. Where we're coming into one, because I truly, whether it's 10 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years, I don't know. I'm outside of time at this point because it's a collective consciousness that's creating this reality. But there is a heaven on earth coming. There's great things coming. And we are at the leading edge. We are creating what it will be. We are planting the seeds. And I do believe many of us will be here to see the flowering of it. Because women have been doing this for thousands of years, and men too. Spiritual leaders, spiritual guides have been anchoring the energies that are now manifesting for eons. And so the physical earth is where it's at. And so we call on our gems, our crystals, our rocks, and our sands. So many, can I get a hand wave if you like crystals? If you have a couple of crystals that you like to hang out with. So these remind us of our spiritual roots. And yet they come from deep, deep down into the earth. They've gone millions of years of transformation. So this is where the West comes together. And so we're also grateful for the mixed metals and ores, which give us all this technology that we can be here right now. Thank you, West. Mother Earth, Pachamama Gaia, we're so grateful to be here. As we begin to understand our connection with you and also our connection with our own body as women, I'm here as a guide. The key word in the title of this workshop is embodiment, how to come in and feel good in these physical structures, feel proud, feel sexy, feel humble, feel all the things at once. And unfortunately, or fortunately, because we get to be the first ones to experience it, but our society has not created a safe space for women to understand, know, or love their bodies. And I'm here to change that, basically. And you guys are too, because this is a wonderful place to be. It really, really is. Despite the ups and downs, there's so much love for you within your body. And any disconnection you feel from your body is of no fault of your own. It has been a sinisterly orchestrated something or other for a very, very long time to keep the feminine separate from herself and separate from others. And there is a strength present in this room that I am holding, and I'm sure you're holding if you're here, that we're here for it, that we have it in us to crack open and break the code. And often what happens, what keeps us from fully loving ourselves, showing ourselves is the subconscious fear. And so we're going to talk about some of these pillars, because a lot of it is past life witchy stuff. Like there's many, 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 many layers that go into this. And some of it really is subconscious. And so we do work with the mind as well as the body, because it's real. It's been embedded in our brains to be afraid. We don't have to be anymore. Thank you, Mother Earth. Father Sky, Star Nation, Star Beings. I'd like to invite in all the ancestors, all the loved ones of anybody watching, present, now, replay, millions of years in the future, other timelines. We ask you to be here. I always like to invite the Archangel realm. I work very, very closely with the Ascended Master realm. I consider myself an ascending master. I feel very in touch with the part of myself that has ascended, and I'm taking myself there in this lifetime. And I'm here to guide you guys to take yourself there, because I do think that is what we're here to do as a collective, to reach a greater level of consciousness than we have ever seen on Earth. Like if I'm channeling right now, it's like, which I am, but I just don't channel that way. We're here for it. There's energies coming into Earth, coming through our bodies as us to really change things. So I want you to congratulate yourselves. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here, because I know it feels heavy, and my purpose is to help make it feel lighter. I am not underestimating the heaviness of this. I'm telling you that I've been through that heaviness for 15 years, and there's a much easier way, and it has to do with support. So with that, the spirits are here. May I start my little presentation? I don't want to do all the talking. Do you guys want to share anything about that experience calling in the directions? Have you done that before? Or have you guys been a part of any Native American or Indigenous type Mother Earth stuff?
I'll share a little bit. I kind of shared with you in the beginning when I first entered the meeting. My ancestors are Alaska Native, Athabascans. So I don't know a whole lot about it, but I want to, because I know there's a lot of really rich information in there that, could possibly be beneficial to me. Especially when trying to find, those little daily rituals or things that I do that could, help with that inner work that I'm trying to accomplish.
I get that. Well, the great thing about you having the Indigenous blood is the wisdom is in you. So there's going to be a teacher or a book, or like there'll be information, but you'll bring through the new way. It's in your body. And then you learn what you learn, right? You learn their base, you learn what you want to learn about the history, but you are the future. So awesome. I'm honored that you're here. Thank you. All right, I'm going to start my little slideshow here. They're very pretty slides. I'm excited to share them, to be honest with you. Clickety click. Play slideshow in window. Boom. All right, so I changed the first slide last night to have both of them, both the goddess and the divine purpose. And then the question is, are you ready for a mind, body, spirit upgrade? Can I get a yes in the chat or a thumbs up? And what does that even mean? You don't even know what it means, but we know when we need it, right? And that's the great thing about this work, is this inner work. It's so different for everyone, because your upgrade is dependent on your family, like what you want in your life. It's your desires, and a lot of us don't know what our desires are yet. And so this work is going to awaken and alchemize those. This is my slide for calling in our directions, which we did. Okay, so I mentioned I have a background in engineering. Actually, I'm going to start with a story. I'm going to stop the share. I feel so unorganized. It's okay. Perfectly imperfect. That's how the goddess does it. May I tell you a little bit about my story? I usually just tell a story, but recently I wrote a talk. I invested in a program where I learned to write the big talk. Her name's Tricia Bork, the Big Talk Academy. I highly recommend her. So I wrote a big talk that kind of encompasses my story and my message. So instead of starting with me telling my story, I would love to share my big talk. It's an 8-minute talk. So it's like the introduction. But the caveat is when I finished this program, I had to have it memorized and I had to present it in order to be a certified speaker. And I did that. And then I did not practice it this week as I should have. So I don't have it memorized. So I'm a little like feeling imperfect, but I'm going to try to deliver it as this whatever. And it's going to get my story and you'll kind of get a vibe for me. But I might have to look down at my notes. So please forgive me for that. All right. Calling in the Ascended Master realm. Isis, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Kuan Yin, and White Buffalo Calf Woman. These are the names of divine feminine spiritual masters who have walked this earth before us. Goddesses who incarnated on earth during trying times of transformation, just like you. We have become disconnected from these divine feminine energies because we are disconnected from our minds, our bodies, and our God. In the United States, 50% of our people will be diagnosed with a mental illness at some point in their life. Gun violence is the norm, and the body autonomy of women and non-gender conforming individuals is being threatened. The shadow masculine is screaming out for attention. He is crying for the unconditional love of the goddess, and I am answering the call. I am a divine feminine goddess. I wasn't always this clear on who I am. Back in 2008, I had a career as an aerospace engineer. I had chased the American dream to a success. I had flown in zero gravity. I had given presentations to 5-star generals, and I had built and tested prototypes for futuristic aircraft. It looked like my dream, but inside I felt empty. Although I had a childhood dream of being a dancer and I was fully committed to it into my early 20s, by the age of 29, I hadn't set foot in a dance studio in almost 7 years. Then one day I woke up. And I had the thought, only 30 more years till I can retire. This was completely unacceptable to me. The awareness of wanting more for myself was all it took for the goddess to be calling me home. For the first time in my life, I began pondering purpose. My heart guided me to follow Mother Earth's wisdom, and it gave my body and my mind a glimpse of what it truly meant to be connected to the Creator. My studies of indigenous wisdom brought me back in connection with my divine mother, which created a safety for me to rediscover the ancestral roots and the connection to my divine father. You see, in the shamanic world, one chooses their basic life circumstances, such as family dynamic, socioeconomic status, race, homeland, and of course, religion. I grew up a Creaster, a Christmas and Easter Catholic. I attended weekly religion classes with my peers, and although my curious questioning was a source of frustration for my teachers, I was never threatened that I would go to hell. I was blessed that my personal experience within my birth religion wasn't a toxic one, and this allowed me to open my heart and my mind to explore my lineage more deeply. It became a part of my purpose to rectify my bloodline's religion within myself, and then to resurrect a new point of view to take with me on my journey to awaken others. Soon, divine feminine Christ consciousness began flowing through me, and I became to really understand what this Christ consciousness was. Just a loving force that can flow through all of us. It flows through you. Together, we will create this heaven on earth. The goddess restored my connection with my inner child through the use of fifth dimensional energy work. The first time I received Reiki, I was still an aerospace engineer. It was completely new and unknown to me, but my soul urged me to follow my curiosity into the unknown, into the quantum field. By 2014, I was a Reiki master, a Kundalini Reiki master, and over the past 9 years, I have transformed countless lives with this work, most of all my own. The faith of my ancestors programmed me to believe there was only one way, one path to heaven, nirvana, enlightenment, but one is not enough. Mother Earth's wisdom teachings need a voice. She needs your voice. The youthful, innocent spirit and magical wonder of the fifth dimensional energy world is asking us to be open, curious, and excited, beyond hopeful, to the knowing that the goddess is here right now. When I opened to more than one, I witnessed my life transformed. The hopes and dreams of my truest self began to manifest. I left my aerospace engineering career to follow my purpose that was whispered to me in two words: dance and spirituality. And although I had no idea how that purpose would come to be, I knew I had to follow down that twisted path. My goddess restored my connection and love through my body through burlesque. She helped me quiet and clear my mind by guiding me to multiple spiritual communities where I was able to immerse myself in her teachings and her sustainable practices. And I started dancing again. In short time, my goddess put me on the big stage, the hit TV show So You Think You Can Dance, where I spoke my truth and gave voice to the fact that I am a starseed, a spiritual guide here to help in the ascension of planet Earth. I listened when the goddess whispers told me that I should move to Peru, and I arrived there with the intention to heal others with Kundalini Reiki. And I did that, and I ended up joining a circus as a freestyle dancer and a fire spinner. In Peru, I sat my first of 9 10-day Vipassanas, and I'm blessed to have taken the time to purify my body, mind, and soul so that I could be a clear channel for the goddess that I am. I got to live in awakening hotspots all over the United States, including Hawaii, Portland, Sedona, Lake Tahoe, Santa Fe, and now I planted roots in sunny San Diego, and I'm continuing to see my dreams manifest every day. I have a successful healing practice that is helping others align with their highest self. I get to share my light and presence as a performer at the San Diego Zoo and a morning teacher for a YMCA before school program. And I'm in the process of getting a musical produced that I just know is going to be a Tony Award winner. I'm an accomplished speaker. I am connected to the wisdom of my higher self, connected to my body, and connected to the goddess. This divine feminine energy, the goddess energy, is here for you now. All you have to do is invite it in. You are being invited to open space for more than one spiritual ideology. Expand your mind, heart, and soul. There are many facets for your highest self to embody, many you haven't even remembered conceiving. And so if you are firmly rooted in the faith of your ancestors, whether that's Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Islam, any faith, indigenous, this is absolutely wonderful. And now you are invited to receive even more. Call in the goddess to sit next to the Father. Open to the divine feminine energy available on Mother Earth right now. You too can be a channel for divine feminine Christ conscious energy, fifth dimensional energy, and aid in the healing of yourself, your loved ones, and the future generations. And if you're totally comfortable with Mother Earth's vibes and 5D energy work, there could be some resistance to the faith of your ancestors. If you've turned your back on your people's religion, you are being invited to peer behind the curtain again. Look a little deeper, because I promise within the patriarchal roots, the feminine seeds have been planted and they are sprouting. The time is now to tend to your inner garden. Plant more than one seed and watch the field of goddesses grow. If you do, maybe centuries from now, someone will be on stage speaking your name with the likes of Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, and White Buffalo Pack Woman, the names of the goddess. That's my little talk. That's my introduction. I hope you liked it. Like I said, it was such a process writing that, and I was really proud of it. So it makes me honored to be able to open with that and I have to now think of a smoother transition instead of like, okay, that's the end, now move on. But that's the introduction. That gives you a little bit about me and like the vibe that I'm trying to bring in. So with that, let's get back into the slides. So let's talk about what is reality. Now that you know that I have an engineering background, I do have a scientific view of the world. And so here we have this energy atom spinning around and this beautiful, serene person meditating. And so if you can think back to elementary school science class, you'll remember that an atom is made out of an electron, proton, and a neutron. And 99.99% of every atom is just empty space. That's reality. Now, when you take that one atom and you add a collection together, you get a cell. So what do you get? You get a cell that is made out of primarily energy, 99.99% empty space, only 0.00% matter in a cell. Science, fact. When you put all this together, you get a human body. You get a human body that is 99.9 and energetic space, not matter. However, we have this thing called a mind. This is bringing a little Buddhism of our sense perceptions. So fortunately or unfortunately, we as the world do perceive things as solid, but that doesn't mean we have to take it on as our truth. And so when you start looking at the world as yourself, as a primarily an energetic being, which you are, you regain a lot more power over your own body. And then you see this woman here. Can I get a hand wave if you know what chakras are, if you're familiar with chakras? Cool. So chakras are a big part of my work because they're kind of like our projectors. So the health, the balance, the energy of your chakras is going to determine what is reflecting out into the world. They're like your 7-projector movie screen. And so if you want the movie screen, the movie to be different, instead of starting on, just like painting on the wall, like trying to change the movie, excuse me, you do the inner work, start working with the energy, and that creates a new projection on the outside. And so this is just taking the really, really basic fundamentals of what we know about our world. And when you really think about this, it's just really bizarre that none of us actually live this way. Like, we're taught this in science, and then it's like, okay, now forget that and just go do all this. So we're here to remember that we're primarily energetic beings and that we have far more control over our reality than we have been taught. And that's, again, just our perception. That's the West. That's being human. So our 3 pillars of the goddess, I believe, I am here to offer, are bringing in all of these things together. This indigenous earth wisdom, really connecting with Mother Earth, some sort of ancestral faith, which is different for everyone. And there's absolutely no right or wrong. And this could be atheism. It doesn't matter. Like, you can still appreciate a national park and appreciate the 4 directions if someone doesn't necessarily have a God for whatever. And then the fun part, the 5th dimensional energy work. So there's so many different types about this. We'll talk about, there's so many people doing this type of work. And this is when you move into the next round, when you start really looking at lives differently. But I believe that all 3 are very important. For example, a lot of people that maybe are in the 5th dimensional energy world aren't as in touch with the Mother Earth, or maybe they've really left this God behind. So maybe they're like an amazing channel, but they're still broken and have miserable relationships at home. Just nobody knows that, like they haven't integrated the full possibility of what's available for us. So we're going to talk about each one of these a little bit more. And then after each one, I'd love to have a share. Is this sounding like interesting to you guys? Can I give a thumbs up? Yay. Cool. Okay, so the indigenous earth wisdom, again, this was like some of the first stuff I was called to. And it was really like low key, just maybe going to finding a sweat lodge, or even just going to a national park, because I grew up in the Midwest, where in the suburbs where we just didn't really do nature much. But the idea is working with different types of shamanism, indigenous energy, heals the body and connects us with Divine Mother. So it has this circle here of receiving, healing, and connecting. So we do a practice. Some might call a ritual. The wonderful thing about this indigenous, the earth wisdom, is like you're invited to make it your own. I mean, there are certain people that are very committed to paths, and they're following that path. But someone like you, Nicole, you probably have something completely new that is indigenous, that is your own words, that's for the modern day. But we do this work to heal the body. As we're healing the body, we're connecting with our divine mother, and then we're getting even more healing gifts. And so I just want to have the definition of the word shaman here, because the term shamanism comes from a Mongolian word. And so that's a very important thing I want everyone to remember, is the only indigenous shamans on the planet are from Mongolia. So a South American shaman is no more a shaman than I'm a shaman. In fact, as someone who's Norwegian, the teachings came in and then probably got to Norway and my ancestors first, before they traveled across down to South America. Now, I don't say that to disempower any shamans. I say it to empower more people. That doesn't mean everyone should be like running around being like, I'm a shaman. But the point is like, you can tap into shamanism. I don't really call myself a shaman necessarily, but I do shamanism. And so I'm saying that to empower you, that you are no less a keeper of shamanic wisdom than any other person on the planet, because you are from Earth. And we're here like I said, I've studied in South America. I've studied with indigenous people in North America, and everybody wants everyone to just be respectful and learn. And so there are very specific lineages. And that's why I don't call myself necessarily a shaman, because I do want people that have studied under a specific lineage for 20 years and that's been tested for hundreds of years. Like, I like the idea of roots and a time. But I put this slide up to just empower you, that the shaman is literally just one who knows. The shamans record historical ethnographies, and they have included men, women, and transgender individuals of every age, from middle child and onward. And so I think a lot of us are stepping into our power as ones who know, especially female ones who know, and we'll be bringing new teachings together, to Earth, that are more in line with the times. So with that, I would love to stop share and see if anyone has anything you want to add into your experiences with anything having to do. So let me just say a couple of things about what I mean about Mother Earth wisdom. So this can be as little as just having a sage stick and a feather that you found. And if you ask spirit for a feather, you will get a feather, because when I asked, I got whole birds. This is a turkey. I can bring this one on camera. And I was like, yes, I'm here for it. Like, not everyone's here for it, but they'll just show up for you as like, I'm not expecting you to run. When I asked spirit for this, I thought I would come upon a pile of feathers, and I would pick up a couple feathers and make a wand. So if the idea of a whole bird coming to you is like, nah, it's cool, but like, you can call in this wisdom. So sage and, a bundle and a feather. That's all you need. And I do encourage to buy fair trade sage. If you can find sage from a native person, especially if it came from their land. Here in San Diego, I actually know where it just grows wild. I can go pick it. But I do believe in being sustainable. There's also this next level of, my Earth indigenous. I do a lot of camping. I've created a life where I can take time off. And so I've mentioned national parks a couple of times, because I do think they are protected spaces, because they have energetic vortices on them, where we can go to recharge, to get new information. And so I'll go camping anywhere from, a couple of days, not usually more than a week, because I do balance both worlds. I try to balance them pretty well. But really nature immersion, overnight. And I glamp. I have my cooler. I bring all my food. Like, I'm not like whatever, but I do try to limit the technology and just like be in the nature. And then I do have to give voice to plant medicines, because plant medicines have been a part of my journey. And I definitely, anyone with health issues, I recommend psilocybin. And I can also be a guide in that, because you can microdose, you can work your way up to see what more would be or less would be. But psilocybin specifically is the main medicine that I'm an advocate for in terms of deep healing. And there's many, many very responsible ways to do it. And microdosing is the one where you don't actually feel anything, all the way up to journeys. And, I'm a little bit ahead of my time, but it's legal in Oregon now. So it's spreading and spreading. There's plenty of data that show that these types of plant medicines can have really, really profound effects. And some of the stuff that we're dealing with, if we were going to get deep into past life stuff and being murdered for being a wise woman, like the idea is that is embedded in our subconscious on some level. And so sometimes you need that little extra boost to like unearth, to unroot those false beliefs about ourselves. Would anyone like to share anything about this concept of Mother Earth wisdom? Whether you have had experience or you're having a realization like, wow, I don't give that, like, this is just a place I live. I don't really give her the time that I would like. No one, you don't have to share.
I'll share.
Oh, thank you.
So one of the things about like living in Arizona is how dry it can be. And sometimes you have to kind of venture out a little bit to find like nature. The place that I live now, it has brought me a lot of like discontent, and I try to remember that, my thoughts are greater than my environment, and to not let that really affect me day to day. It's just not what I'm used to. It's a pretty crowded neighborhood. There's really not any grass. There's not a lot of nature. And I think that has really affected me. And I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying not to let it affect me day to day to where I get impatient. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to pack up and sell my house and, move somewhere else, which is a plan. Just I'm trying not to be impatient about it. So I do have to kind of venture out a little bit and find, parks or places that have, grass and water, which is hard to find in Arizona, to really connect with nature, because I think that I really do lack that connection with nature a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I ended up here. I was in Santa Fe for a while, and I could only do 3 years in the high desert because I was like, I need the green. Like the green, the heart chakra is the color of the flora. The flora gives off oxygen, and that is, thank you so much. I'm going to unspotlight you, Nicole. That is part of, if you are really committed, if we're talking about triple transformation, there might be a move in your situation. Like Nicole said, she's already planning on it, but a lot of us have put ourselves living in places that we don't even like living, and it's because we're there. It's because maybe it's where you grew up. And so the goddesses really does empower you to take risks. Your purpose will empower you to take risks. And those risks aren't risky because you feel so supportive. So like there's a part of you, there's always this human mind that's like, what am I doing? But the great thing is when you start getting in touch with these spiritual energies, because if you're only familiar with Christianity, for example, spirituality just has a lot of shame attached to it. And so when you start opening these other doorways, you're like, oh, Spirit's actually a cheerleader. Like Spirit wants me to try things. It wants me to do things. It wants me to experience. And, the true God also does want that. It's just that voice has been drowned out. So thank you for that share. Let's pop back in and see what our second pillar is. This is the one that can be... there's so much depth in this one, the ancestral faith. So as I mentioned, I was a Catholic, and it wasn't a strict Catholic, but when I got out, when my spiritual awakening started was right around the time the Da Vinci Code came out. Do I get a wave if you've seen the Da Vinci Code or you remember that movie? So the Da Vinci Code basically gives this whole conspiracy theory that and it's based on historical fact. It really opened a rabbit hole for me. that Jesus and Mary were likely lovers, and they possibly had a baby because she was the most esteemed apostle. And so it just brings this whole other side to Christianity that I really started diving into. I was reading Gnostic gospel, like taking my limited view of my religion. I don't want to just talk about Christianity. I want to talk about whatever your faith was growing up, whatever your parents chose for you, basically. If you remember in my talk, that happened for a reason. There's something in there to rediscover. And a lot of it is the hidden voice of the feminine, but allowing that in can heal this father wound. And so I pair the mind here. This faith heals the mind, because a lot of us have been fed a false faith, or it's like, I don't want to be a shame person. So I don't want to say that stuff is wrong, but it's only half the truth. And so the mind isn't fully developed. The mind is full of half truths. And we've been convinced that it's true. And other people, even if we maybe don't believe something, like there's all this peer pressure and societal pressure to act and be and do a certain way. And so much of that is based on America as what has I can just tell the truth. It's clearly been established up until now. We see this shifting now, but to be this Judeo-Christian nature is very, very embedded in our roots, for better, for worse. A lot of worse, a lot of better too. Do you know what I mean? And so that's kind of this, when you start doing this work, you can kind of look at both sides and let go of some of the anger that's there. Because there's a lot of it. Like, I don't know if do you guys feel some sort of anger towards what religion has done to the planet? Yeah. And a lot of that is this father energy. It's the patriarch. It is the misguided patriarch. And we see it in our government here in the United States all the time. It's these old Caucasian men who have these very, very fundamentalist Christian views, and they're making it really difficult on a lot of people. When you do the inner work, you kind of just stop focusing on them. You get really real about what you have the power to change now. And then there's this added sense of faith that it will project out. And then when you heal this energy, and you do start to connect with the Divine Father, my father has passed on about 2 years ago now. And I feel, after knowing what the relationship, so I grew up in a household. I love my dad. We definitely healed things before he transitioned, but I got yelled at a lot. I got spanked. Don't cry, or I'll give you something to cry about. In fact, that kind of generational healing used to be what my workshop was primarily about. And I do want to give voice to it here, that our fathers, as much as they loved us, also very, very wounded us in many, many cases, because it's called unconscious parenting. And that is the version of God that we have been given. Our God, our Divine Father, is an unconscious father. And so the whole idea is, like, if we're going to follow their story, that Master Yeshua came to the planet to kind of restore his message, because the Old Testament is a mess. That is like not a God I want, don't want him on my team necessarily. So working with this energy is a very personal process. It's not something that I love talking about these deep roots, the way of the rose. Mother Mary is a primary guide of mine. She is in me in all of my sessions. I tend to attract a lot of clients that might have had mothers who had passed away, for example, because their mothers kind of I think somehow send them to me. But this is a big one. Any thoughts about this Divine Father energy, or your faith, or how that is for you, how it influences your life, how it's wounded you, anything anyone wants to share? Is Tisha taking mood off?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, no, I think for sure, it's wounded. I'm sure many of us, it's wounded us, I think that's one of the hardest. I think it dictates so much of our life, like we act to an extreme based on how we were raised, like I think of anything that I do, like I'm always trying to protect my kids, or I'm trying to not, like you said with your father, the way he was, my father was very similar. So I try to go to the extreme opposite, which sometimes I go to the extreme, which I have to recognize and try to like realize, okay, this is why I'm acting like this, and trying to get control of it is tough.
It is tough. And that's why we call in these extra resources to, whether it's this more mother nature, more, these two other arms, because we have been really, really deeply programmed. And you have to remember that the divine mother and the goddess loves you, despite the fact that, I don't know if this is where you're like, if you flip out at your kids or like whatever the story is, when we show up in a way that we're not proud of, we are forgiven. And then, but we have to forgive ourselves. That's where this whole God thing really got messed up. It's like the only judge is ourselves. We are the God and we are the ones judging ourselves. And the goddess, when like I'm not a perfect person, but I forgive myself really easily now because we're growing and we are who we are and no one is perfect. So you're in the right spot if you want to start making those changes, because it just becomes with self-awareness. And the wonderful thing about the work I do is it's almost instantaneous, because we go to the root and we're going to get into the energetic. Well, I'm going to talk about that next actually, but like, it's about using these fifth dimensional ideas that the world is not solid, that we can create magic with our intention, with spirit, whether that's God or source or great spirit, whatever people want to call it. And we can create instantaneous changes in our bodies, which will affect the way we respond instead of react to all the situations going on around us.
Yep. I think awareness is key for sure.
Awareness is the first step, but and I'm sure you know this, the awareness is the first step. And then it's sometimes like, shoot, I took the red pill, because once you're aware of yourself, you can't become unaware of yourself. And that's when the judge kicks in, because if you're not aware, you're not judging yourself. You're just kind of a bad person, low key, or you think you're a good person, but you're really just like average. Once you become aware, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. And I'm really glad you said that, because that is the goddess does hold herself to a high standard. That's why it's called triple transformation. Once you get on the path, you don't want to stop, but you also can't, because the momentum is there. It's like you said yes to your purpose. And that's self-awareness, and you can't turn off self-awareness, which makes it exciting too. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right, we're going to move into the last pillar, which is for me, it all started, I kind of share my story. You maybe kind of picked up how it all kind of started at the same time. But the Reiki, the fifth dimensional energy work. I'm sorry, I have to get this share and window. So much clicking. Can you see this slide? Is the slide up? I don't think it is. I'm going to try again. Okay, so ancestral faith. So we have the outer faith, the faith in a creator, a God, a source, Allah, universe, all that is, love. And then inner faith in the self, Buddha nature, Christ consciousness. And these really are one and the same. And yet I do experience, like, I'm not fully embodied yet. So I do experience a creator, a God force outside of myself. But there are many, many times when I'm speaking and I'm very, not only am I knowing of my divine presence, but I really do feel like I am embodying it. And that's sometimes a scary place to be, because just because you're embodying your highest self doesn't mean anyone else is going to see it or care. And that's a trip. Because then as soon as you realize that you're like feeling like so on, and then nobody's noticing. And then the ego kicks in and all of a sudden you're not embodied anymore because you're like, why isn't anyone noticing? So it's a process, but I really do believe we all are this second coming. Like we are the ones doing it through our bodies. And I do believe we are shining. And there are times when I dance when people say they see little things around me, but not walking on water yet. Okay, so the fifth dimensional energy world. So this is healing the soul for me. A lot of people, when I give them a Reiki initiation, they'll cry, they'll feel this like coming home. And for me, it's healing the divine inner child because it's completely unknown. It is something we're working towards. So we can't really have a conceptual idea of it, but there are studies that show when you do that, they'll put like electrodes on somebody and that person will receive a remote healing. And the cells within the body, if you're taking notes, write down on Amazon Prime, the healing field. And it talks about a couple different things, but one section of it, this one talks specifically about healing touch, I believe. And it shows an EKG where the cells are lighting up when they're receiving this energy. I've seen my dad passed away of cancer and I zipped home thinking I would be able to save his life. You know, I really did. Turns out it was much more about him and what he wanted. But when I showed up, he was coughing up all of this phlegm, like into the cup, like it was, you know, filling it up, lung cancer. And I did some work with him. I did some shamanic ceremony. And although there wasn't a miraculous healing, because that just wasn't the purpose, that cough stopped. He stopped coughing up phlegm and, you know, just really changed the course of his transition. It was relative to most people that would have the same illness that he had. It was unbelievably peaceful and a really powerful healing time for our whole family. So this fifth dimensional really energy world really can heal on a soul level. And it helps us, you know, as we're all getting older, you know, like my dad is just passed. My mom is in her, like we're getting to the age where our maybe have any of your parents passed on? Not yet. So we have one. So they will eventually. And it's very surreal going through the process of a parent passing away because you know it's going to happen, right? Your parents are going to die before you, most likely. And this type of energy work, it does heal at the soul level, meaning I feel him. Like I did not experience grief in the same way that the rest of my family did. And I don't allow myself to feel bad for that either. Like as soon as I heard that he passed, I felt this rush of joy travel through my body. And I just feel him around every day. I don't ever need to go to a cemetery. He's not in this box in the ground. There's no part of that soul which exists in that way. And I didn't know that this work would transform the way that I experience these hard times, death, but it has. And it's just like sad for us, but kind of exciting for them, basically. And so you're just preparing that there may be a time when you're being called to step up a little bit more and hold space for, you know, especially if you have sibling, everyone's different. Everyone's going to be the strong one. And the goddess is usually the strong one during hard times, basically. And it was an honor for me. And so this is, you're receiving this fifth dimensional energy work. You are going to have so much more energy in your body. You might find yourself wanting to hike, or I started at burlesque. Now I'm like a professional aerialist. I fire spin. That's like a whole different side of me, but you might find yourself going to a dance class that you haven't gone, you know, just getting in that body again, finding what your purpose is again, which is to enjoy your life. And finding out what that might look like. A lot of women are getting into pole classes. You know, this is an athletic thing. And it also allows women to feel good in their body again. And so this fifth dimension energy work really does change the body on a cellular level to allow more in. So in the process that I do, we basically remove the energy, the programs of our our parents, society, past versions of ourselves, anyone who's hurt us, all of that stuff. And then we get to download in these higher dimensional versions of ourselves. And I say it connects us to the inner child energy because you may have noticed that I have kind of a, I don't know, I hope you're finding my personality fun and charming. And that is this inner child. Like, it just doesn't worry. It's just here to enjoy life. And I'm not a biblical person, so I should memorize this one, but there's that whole blessed is the child, or be like the children. And that is the innocence of being awake and being embodied by the goddess. Is there is this innocence, and the inner child is restored, and you go out and do fun things. And, you know, your kids are like, on the outside are thinking you're kind of wacky. On the inside, they're totally loving that, like, mom's having fun again. Mom's enjoying her life. Mom wants to do this with us. You know, I don't have kids, and I know that I'm part of my purpose is to embody this divine mother, because I had to go on a 15-year journey to gather all this stuff. And I get that people that have children cannot do that. And so you are moving forward for your children, and they want you guys to get out and do it and enjoy the second part of your life in a way that, you know, maybe your mothers didn't get to. And this world can take you there. So in the fifth dimensional energy work, I talk about the goddess embodiment method. So over the past 15 years, I didn't know that I was creating the goddess embodiment method when I started. It wasn't like, you know, but it was like, quit your job. Okay, I'll do that. do this. All of the learning, all of the gathering has really come together into a transformational program that is designed to awaken you, to align you with your highest self. And so there's many aspects to it. My primarily energy work that I do is Kundalini Reiki. This is a modality that is anybody that works with me has the opportunity to get initiated. And then you can do it on yourself. And that's how it was for me. Like I said, I was an engineer with Boeing, and I got Reiki done on me. And then I had this really bizarre experience, and it was I didn't like feel healed, but I was like, this is interesting. I felt excited. I felt curious. I felt like I wanted to explore more. And I've always been a penny pincher, you know, even though I was an engineer, I didn't have an abundant mindset. So spending, you know, $150 to get a Reiki treatment wasn't really something I wanted to do very often. But I was like, well, but I can spend that same amount and get initiated. Then I can do Reiki on myself. So that's what I did. And then now here I am. Who knew? So it definitely, you know, this one little thing, I really did not ever in a million years think that this would be where I am. It's crazy. And then shamanic healing techniques, obviously, kind of what you experienced in the beginning, all of my sessions, all of my things we call in that higher vibrational earth wisdom. And then the ascended master portal work. This is where you get into calling an archangel. This is where the stuff that feels a little woo-woo, you give it a chance to be real. This is the fifth dimensional. This is that inner child that isn't letting its mind be limited. And so using portals, using higher dimensional energy to ask for what we want and receive guidance. So that's what I do. Any words on that? Do you guys have any shares do you have any experience with any sort of modality? I mean, I talked about Kundalini Reiki, but there's healing touch. I know many people do many different things. So do you guys have any experience with any of that stuff? Yes.
Sorry. I've been doing a little bit of research on some different techniques. One of them being like the tapping technique, the EFT, I think it is. Sometimes that seems to help if I feel something in my chest where I feel like maybe I'm going to feel off or not okay. Sometimes that's good, even just for the distraction, and the affirmations and everything works. And I try to go and get the Reiki done once a month, and acupuncture as well, and massage therapy.
Yes, all of that. I've done a little bit of tapping in my life. I do acupuncture myself. I don't do it. I get it, because even though I channel a lot of energy with Reiki as an athlete, like sometimes the physical injury needs like a physical pokey poke is kind of the idea that I tell myself. Cool. So you got all the things. How about you, Tisha?
Yeah, I did the IET, the integrative energy therapy. I was sick for probably 10 years, and then my kids got sick, and I was just, it was something I stumbled upon. Like, I had no idea that, like, what energy work really was, and kind of stumbled upon it. And once I started seeing like results, I mean, I'm physically, my health is better. So, I mean, I was to a point where I couldn't even walk up a flight of stairs. It hurt so bad, or walk 2 blocks down the street. And, I spent 10 years in a lot of pain, and now my pain is gone. And, but anyway, that all happened through energy healing.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, but once the body's healed, then you move on to the, because the thing is when your body's not feeling really well, it's really hard to think about stuff like your connection with spirit and your inner happiness. It's really, you're in that physical. So having the physical body feeling well is so wonderful.
Yes.
Because then then you can really think about those other things, and then circle back to get the father feeling even more healthy, because, like I said, maybe there's this next reality where you're actually just super active too. Like you're not even feeling good, but you're some like superwoman, whatever. I don't know. Circus star. Cool. Thank you. All right. If you don't mind, I would love to share a testimonial. This was a mashup. So I've worked, like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years, but only recently, about a year and a half ago, I I wanted to offer more transformation than I get with just like one client that comes to a session and then maybe a month later or 6 months later, the one-off sessions. And so I started creating a package. And as I did that, that's when the 𝑚𝑉𝑰𝑷𝑳𝑬, it just started to like birth and become everything I knew it could be. And so I worked with a number of people through this program, and they have some good things to say, and I would like to share them with you if you don't mind. Okay, so we're going to share one more video. We're right on time. I love it. Share. Boom. All right. Here we go. Here's what.
More simple question. Did you know? I mean, how did you not know this? Probably a better question. I knew that I was in the struggle, but I couldn't figure out how to do it myself.
So I didn't know the beauty that would come out of learning how to release those, that feeling of calm and connectedness inside the body. Because I'm a head-based person. By feeling, I mean the sensory experience, not just the emotive experience. I feel more calm and centered when I'm faced with the challenging dynamic.
Or like let myself become more free and accepting of myself through the program.
I began to see relationships with my children changing and evolving. Started noticing that those one-word answers were turning into sentences, and then pretty soon conversations. And so this was a very authentic shift that just for a holistic process, I guess, just I think really opened up space for my children to come in and be their authentic selves. Because I was in a different space when I was working with Lynn.
Being able to set boundaries in my romantic relationships, that's something where I've really seen a difference.
Blessings have come in ways that like I would have never expected.
I'm an energy healer. Like I've done lots of work with my chakras, and yet like being able to like apply my own medicine to myself is something that has been a challenge. I was not totally in alignment with myself, just feeling so much more like myself and excited about like what the possibilities are for me, feeling more connected to spirit and just like getting more of a sense of like alignment with my purpose in a more specific way than I had been before. I just feel like having worked with you for the 4 months, I just the shifts were out, and then all of a sudden you realize, okay, wow, things have changed. It was the way that I react differently, how I feel a lot more calm. How I'm able to shift my energy
more effectively.
It's really bringing me back to me. It's really the reminder to take that moment and just sink in for yourself. All these other people, everything I do is serving other people. But what am I doing for me in this time out has really brought me back to that so that I can come back to those things charged, ready to serve at a greater place.
And I left every session with like feeling like a new person.
It's really introduced the way, not only for the future of our relationships, but as Lynn and I were talking earlier, as well as for my grandchildren. My grandchildren will potentially be able to have different relationships with their parents, as well as a different relationship with myself. Because of this work.
Using a glitchy computer, sometimes you need to upgrade the hardware, and sometimes you need to upgrade the software, and sometimes you need to upgrade a little bit of both. So I love that you were kind of my guide to be upgrading my software, getting rid of the old glitchy software, and installing new and better software.
Lynn does is really like it's following a particular structure and sequence, but it is exactly like channeled for you and where you're at and what you've gone through, what you need. So highly recommend.
Super simple question. How did you help? I mean, how did you not help? Probably a better question.
That is my testimonial. Lovely women that I work with, and I have worked with some men, and I'm getting more of a clear guidance that I want to focus more on women, because women are much more receptive, and we can the shifts happen a lot quicker, I find, with women, because we're a little bit more open. So with that, I just have a couple more slides. I just want to show you you kind of got a feeling for the benefits and results, but it's so hard to put in words. Like you heard Robin saying, I feel more like myself, like, because we don't know because we don't know our higher self yet. We don't know what is possible for us. That's the whole point of the faith and the discovery. And so when people are like, well, what outcome am I going to get? It's like, well, you're going to feel better, but what outcome do you want? You're going to be more aligned with your highest self. And so the results and benefits are pretty just, kind of the same for everyone. Decrease in all these things we don't want in our life: stress, anxiety, worry, anger, sadness, fear, unhealthy patterns, and relationships. Basically, whatever your baseline is, you're going to find it raising. So if this is like joy and this is fear and stress, you're going to go up a notch for sure. Lower vibrational experiences eradicated. Not eradicated, it's a process. It's a spiral is how I see it. So it's like positive, negative, lows, highs. And as we continue to work on ourselves, the distance between the lows and the highs is getting less and less and less, but not in a way that people are numb, because that's another feedback I get is some people, Barb said she felt more emotive. Some people, they don't feel a lot of anything. They're just like middle, like no emotion. And so what I'm getting to at the middle is it's like a joy and peace phase. So an increase in stability, creativity, self-worth, self-love, self-expression, intuition, hope, and faith. There's 7 words here. Each of these kind of goes along with the chakras, if you caught that. 3 key words. You might have noticed I like my triads, right? And I also like alliteration. I like words that are the same. Power, passion, and purpose. That's what we're going for. More power over your mind, your thoughts, and your actions. When you have more power over your mind, you have more control over your life. More passion in your body. And I'm not talking about passion as in like, you want to have sex more with everyone. Maybe you will, maybe this will awaken a relationship or make it clear that a relationship that you're in is not fulfilling in the way you want it to be, and do work to change that. But it comes with a sense of safety and a sense of comfort, and really starting to understand what our needs are. I've been single for over a decade. So passion for me comes much more through I hope I get a partner someday. It's like definitely in my life plan, it's happening. But, the path of the goddess is first. And so this passion is your own inner passion, right? Your fire for life, like what it is you want to do, how you want to serve. It's not necessarily tied to another person, but if you are in a romantic relationship, it will blossom. And then Finally, more alignment with your purpose, whatever that is. Again, we're starting with the inner purpose. We're not getting too concerned about what that outer purpose is, because as I said, if somebody had told me 14 years ago, like, hey, you're going to quit engineering, then you're going to do a bunch of stuff, and then you're going to be a healer, and you're going to be a circus performer, and you're going to like heal people through your words and actions and just when you dance, and I would have been like, no way. Right. And I would have been like trying to figure out how to do it. I probably never would have taken the first step. But I knew my journey was spiritual. It was always internal. It was Eckhart Tolle's Awakening to Your Life Purpose. That is a very good book if you haven't read that. Eckhart Tolle, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. And it is about that, you know, I got that book thinking I was going to get the answers for what I was going to do because I didn't like being an engineer. And lo and behold, it was like, oh, it's a spiritual thing. You're telling me about my inner purpose as a way to manifest my outer purpose. And so you feel more connection with Divine Mother. I'm not trying to discount any past, you know, any religions or anything like that, but my purpose is to bring in a more feminine energy. I am here to anchor a feminine energy, and hold that space for other people to anchor it on planet Earth, to love the masculine energy, to bring balance to the planet. So connection with the Divine Mother, your I am presence, that is your inner God. That is really all that is, right? And then, of course, the creator God that we sometimes see as an external force that is really an internal force. So my invitation to you, I have created a free 30-minute, what I call a goddess guidance session, where I would love to get on the phone with you. I created this program, the Goddess Embodiment Method and the Goddess Embodiment Academy, because I have a divine mandate to help awaken other women and align them with their higher self. I want you to feel whole and happy in your body. I want you to be fulfilled in your relationships. I want you to forgive yourself for anything that you've done in the past that you're not proud of. And know that when you work on yourself and you forgive yourself, the other relationships that you want restored will restore. And so on this 30-minute conversation, we'll just I'll basically ask you where you are and where you want to be and kind of get a feel for where you're stuck in your life. And if it's a fit for you to work together, if you'd like to hear about I have a 4-month program, the Goddess Embodiment Academy. At that time, I would love to tell you about that program. But if you're not interested, if you're not in a place at this time to invest in a 4-month program, no worry, at least you'll know what it is for next time. And everyone who books a call, I have a free gift. It's going to be, I'm really big into the reprogram the subconscious mind. I'm listening to audios every morning, every night, because I'm trying to get to millions. I'm trying to get to 30K months, to 50K months. I'm trying to be the goddess, you know, and it's not about the money. It's about the impact that I want to have. And I realized that my limiting factor has come down to my mind. And so based on the conversations we have about where you are and where you want to be, I'm going to create for you an audio of affirmations like, you know, your body is healthy and strong. You are healing. You are serving the most dynamic way possible. You are changing lives every day. Your children think you are the best mom ever. You are the best mom ever. Those types of affirmations on top of binaural beats. So when you listen to that stuff, it'll reprogram your mind. So let me pull up one last slide. Boom. So this is a goddess embodiment guidance session. Again, it's a free call, no obligation, no pressure. I'm going to put a link in the chat. I put that QR code there because we're fancy, but a good old-fashioned link in the chat is good too. Here's my notes. So I've opened up a couple of slots over the next couple of days to talk to people. I gotta find the chat. Oh, I'm all over the place. So if I ended up on Facebook. Hi, I see people are watching on Facebook. Now I have too many windows open. I've totally lost you guys. I gotta stop the share. There, that brings me back home. Okay, I'm gonna put this in the chat, this link in the chat. Eek, eek. Here we go. Boom. All right, so you can click that link if you would like to book a goddess guidance session, and I will bring that slide up one more time in case there are people that do want to use the QR code. And I would just like to close with a little poem, and then I'll stop the recordings. And anyone in the room, if you'd like to stay on chat, ask any questions, I would love to chat more. But this poem is called "A Ritual to Read to Each Other" by William Stafford. Okay, I'm going to take this off for now. Everyone who got the QR code, because we're going to stop it. I want you to see my face while I read this poem. Someday I'll have this memorized. A ritual to read to each other. If you do not know the kind of person I am, and I don't know the kind of person you are, a pattern that others have made may prevail in the world, and following the wrong God home, we may miss our star. For there are many a betrayal in the mind, a shrug that lets the fragile sequence break, sending with shouts the horrible errors of childhood, storming out to play through the broken dike. And as elephants parade holding each elephant's tail, but if one wanders, the circus won't find the park. I call it cruel and maybe the root of all cruelty, to know what occurs but not recognize the fact. And so I appeal to a voice, to something shadowy, a remote, important region in all who talk. Though we could fool each other, we should consider, lest the parade of our mutual life get lost in the dark. For it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. The signals we give, yes, no, or maybe, should be clear. The darkness is deep. A final quote by Alan Camus. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Just walk beside me and be my friend. And I'm so happy to meet 2 of you new friends in the room today, and all new friends that might be watching this replay in the Facebook group. I accidentally it got on my screen. I saw there were some comments. So thank you so much for commenting in the Facebook group. I wasn't able to follow the chat in the Facebook group, but I will reach out to everyone who did comment. With that, thank you so much for being here. Have a blessed day. And I'm going to stop recordings. And if we want to stay on for Q&A, you are totally welcome to. Mwah.